All right, let's talk about transformations. In CSS, we have a bunch of functions for transforming elements. We have the rotate function for rotating elements, the scale function for making them larger or smaller, the skew function for tilting them to the left or to the right, and the translate function for positioning them on the screen. So let's start off by adding a box. And inside this box, we're going to add some dummy text. Now, let's define some styles. I'm going to set the width to 100 pixels, the height to 100 pixels, and the background to gold. Now I want to position this box in the center of the screen. So let's define a rule for our body element. Here we're going to use flex. So we set display to flex. And then we set justify content to center and align items to center as well. So now here's our box. It's not vertically in the center of the screen because our body element has grown tall enough to fit this box. So here we need to set the height to 100 VH. Okay, good. Now I'm going to apply transformations on the hover effect so we can see things clearly. So over here, we say box hover. This is where we use the transform property. Here we can use the rotate function and rotate this box 15 degrees clockwise. Now, when I hover over it, this is what we get. That's pretty cool. We can also use negative values and the box rotates counterclockwise. We can use the scale function to make this box larger or smaller. So if we say 1.5, see what happens? That's pretty cool. Or we can make it half the size. We also have the skew function for skewing this to the left or to the right. So let's say 15 degrees and see what we get. That's the kind of effect. So the box has tilted 15 degrees to the left. Obviously, if we use a negative value here, the box tilts to the right. Now, the last function that we have here is translate. And with this, we can move the box on the screen. So if we pass a single value here, let's say 10 pixels, this will move the box 10 pixels on the horizontal axis. So the box moves 10 pixels to the right. Now, if we pass a second value, this will move the box along the vertical axis. So now 10 pixels to the right and 10 pixels down. Now you might be wondering why we should use the translate function when we can use absolute and relative positioning. Well, there are two reasons for this. The first reason is that it's easier to position elements using the translate function. If you wanted to use absolute and relative positioning, we would have to set position to, let's say, relative, and then we would have to use one of the top, left, right, and bottom properties. Using these properties is a little bit confusing for some people. So this is where we can use the translate function. The second reason for using this function is that this function uses hardware acceleration. So we get better performance when moving elements as part of an animation. So this is all about transformation functions. Now we can also combine these transformation functions. For example, we can rotate this box 15 degrees to the right and then move it along the horizontal axis by 50 pixels. So here I'm using translate X. You also have translate Y. The translate function that I showed you is a shorthand for translate X and translate Y. So now let's see what happens when we hover over this box. So here's what we get. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to here is that the order of these functions matter. So now if I swap the order, we get a completely different result. Take a look. See? So in this case, first we are moving this box 50 pixels to the right, and then we are rotating it. So this is all about two-dimensional transformations, but we also have three-dimensional transformations, which we're going to talk about next.